Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Tuesday night. Hope everybody's having a great evening so far. Probably not as good an evening as Monty Rice, according to his own Twitter account. He was released by the Titans today, and he threw some shade at them on the way out the door. So we will get to the tweets. We will talk about whether that's indicative of a larger problem there now that two players have done it and several other players have been comfortable subtweeting this organization at various points throughout the course of the year. We'll also talk about the AFC South because it's while the Titans are not dead, they are falling behind very, very quickly. But the division itself is fascinating. I'd be curious to see who you guys think is going to be the team to come out of it. We'll get to Gone Viral at the end of the show because that's what we do on Tuesday nights. We've got some good stuff prepared for you. Then always enjoy our time together and really appreciate those of you who got out to Toy Field today. If you were able to stop by at any point, whether it was while Lucas and I were on the air for the radio show, or if you made it out earlier while Ramon and the crew were on, or later in the afternoon when the other two shows finished up from 1 to 6 after we left earlier today. It was really cool to see everybody come out, everybody support, everybody be very, very generous with their donations in helping the Salvation Army. It's such a cool thing that we get to be a part of every year, and always appreciate the way that you guys respond. So I just wanted to say thank you. And now that we've done those, we can get to the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Zen Sports. Download the promo code ATOZTN or plug in the promo code ATOZTN. When you download the Zen Sports app, promo code is your way to get your $1,000 up to $1,000. No danger first wager, and to get involved with their VIP program, which I'll tell you about a little more later on in the show. Always happy to have our partners at TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. For your first workout free, go to TrueMathFitness.com. A new way to work out for the best version of you. TrueMath Fitness has you covered. And the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, Amanda J. and her team have you covered. They will protect your constitutional rights fiercely. Go with the team that puts you in position to succeed. That's AmandaJGentry.com. All right, so another Titan waived late in the season. Another Titan comfortable throwing shade, or former Titan comfortable throwing shade at the organization on his way out the door. So there's a lot of this to kind of walk through. Jonah says of Monty Rice, the 2021 third-round pick who was waived earlier today, that loser mentality spreads fast. Losers always look for other losers to support them in their lack of ability to hold themselves accountable. So it's really a fascinating kind of look inside at what's going on right now. So full transparency, you guys know that I used to go to practice every day, right? That's how I started doing this. You used to go to practice every day, used to go to every press conference, and now I don't do that nearly as often because the radio show, the hours are right in the middle of the Titans' normal practice availability. So I'm in the locker room a lot less than I ever have been, but I also hear things a lot more while I'm outside the facility than I ever have, and that's typically because things are going wrong. Now, you always want to be sure that when you hear stuff like this, that you're discerning, that you're vetting it. As we've talked about, there's already a lot of reckless speculation around this franchise. I thought Teron Davenport sought out to address some of that with his interview with Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel about their relationship on ESPN.com. Thought he did a good job with that. But then the players continue to speak for themselves. And the players who are on their way out and who feel that they are outside the grasp of ramifications from this particular organization are very comfortable telling you, especially the defensive guys, hey, man, like something is wrong beyond us. And what their motivations for in doing that, it's always a mixed bag. But it does tell you that something is very real and permeating that locker room. And whether it's the mentality of a loser, whether it's a lack of leadership in there to hold them accountable, it is It is really, unlike anything that we've seen from this particular organization, at least in my time hanging out or covering this team in the last 7 years. It's a different kind of locker room because, yeah, they're bad. They're losing. Their season's been done for quite some time, it feels like, even though their season is not yet officially over, neither by elimination from playoff contention, though that is very, very, soon in the driver in the windshield very very soon ahead of them in the windshield as they kind of drive their way through and try and keep it between the lines of what remains of their season. It is it's a tough spot to be in when guys are starting to check out and starting to lash out in this spot. So Elo says Rice been slick balling this year when he got out there too. A text I got today about from somebody with the Titans, and I wanna read it just because I think it kind of speaks to a bit of inner conflict that's going on in there. Of Monty Rice, I got a text saying we cut Monty Rice ? He's our best linebacker. Literally said we have to get more physical and faster, and then cut our most physical and fastest one. So there is internal strife in the Titans facility about a lot of different things, and a lot of this starts to permeate when there's losing. So as you look at this and how stuff plays itself out, it's not just about evaluating the players who are going to be a part of this thing moving forward from an on-field play purpose. They kind of got to gut the thing because the rot has set in, right? And I think that there's a lot of this stuff that you're going to see play out in real time, and Monty Rice is a part of this. We go back to the Jaleel Johnson. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Jameel Douglas there for a second. Jaleel Johnson, when he was waived, and the comments that he had basically about the defense is not the problem, but they keep trying to tinker with it. Put on the tape and see that the defense isn't the problem. And then Monty Rice with some tweets earlier that we'll read for you and we'll show you here in just a second, right after I ask your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. Big deal, little deal, or no deal. Titans players feeling comfortable throwing shade on their way out the door. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is presented by Two Rivers Ford, quality American-made Ford vehicles, and customer service that is unmatched. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So big deal, little deal, or no deal. Titans players feeling comfortable throwing shade on their way out of the organization. Kevin Byard did not, obviously, always the good soldier, always kind of above it. I think he spoke to his understanding of why he was moved. But some of these lower level guys, right? Rice, Jaleel Johnson. We talked about Rashad Weaver earlier in the season when he was inactive for a game day, just subtly tweeting LOL about it. I think that was before the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, if I remember correctly. Just this little stuff that starts to leak out when the losing sets in. MB says Byard was a trade, not a cut, which is important to note. And he went to a better team, right? William Jones says big deal. Where there is smoke, there is fire. Chris Frazier agrees. Big deal at this point. Naff says no deal. They're gone now. Who cares? Well, you don't know that, right? That's kind of the point of all of this, because two guys who have been waived, one who was brought back, have been comfortable speaking out on social media. It doesn't mean that they're the only ones. They're just the ones who have suffered some kind of consequence and feel comfortable now making a statement on the other side. For guys who are still in the facility and kind of fighting through this stuff, it's fair to expect that more, and you don't want to assume too far, right? But it's fair to expect that there's other players in that locker room who feel that way, because think about this, all right? This Colts game really had the ability to keep them alive. We saw how much new life they felt like they got after they beat the Carolina Panthers, or while beating the Carolina Panthers. To have beaten the Colts would have been a huge opportunity. 5-7 feels infinitely better than does 4-8. There's a lot of people who were not, prior to the Colts game, accepting in that building that the season was probably over. And the Colts game is what kind of put them over the edge. And now you really start to see where people's, whether you want to call it loyalties lie, what their motivations are, what they're trying to get accomplished. Now that the season is, clearly off the rails, Chris says the Panthers, wow, big deal. I get it, but like I told you this, I don't care who they beat. They went out and beat a football team. And if they could find ways to put it together, they almost beat the Colts in overtime. I'm not saying that almost beating the Colts in overtime is a step forward, but like I saw them fight their ass off, give it their best shot, and come up short because they're a worse football team. Okay, that's what we all expected. And they were able to do that in stride against the Carolina Panthers. They couldn't get away with it against the Colts, who are a better football team, but not by much because Gardner Minshew was a mess out there. Like, I know his stat line looks a little better than Will Levis's, but when you watch him in the red zone, the dude is like, I don't trust what it is that the Colts are at 7-5. I think that the Texans are a much different story, and the Jags now, obviously, the outcome of their season and their pursuit of the number 1 overall seed was derailed last night on Monday Night Football with this loss. I just think that I think that this is a much deeper issue that's been setting in over the course of years and now months, that now they're going to, now that stuff is starting to bubble to the surface. And I mean, it comes at a time where they're getting ready to nuke the roster anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. But you can't just assume because the two guys who voiced their opinions, and one of them who's already come back to the team for what it's worth, two guys who were released then or were waived and then voiced their opinions about it, you can't just assume that those are the only two people that feel that way in the building. That's why I think it's worth taking a look at. And that's why these Monty Rice tweets are interesting. This is courtesy of his Twitter account earlier today, just 30 minutes before his release was officially announced. He said, "Thank God," with the salute emoji. See you out there. And then he follows it up, doubling down, says, "If you want to know the truth, just cut on the tape since I got here. Showtime." Now, it took him a minute to get on the field. Monty Rice is somebody who is, I won't say that I got to know him very well because, famously, when I went to talk to him a couple of weeks ago, when I did have the opportunity to go into the locker room, he looked at me and I can't remember who else was over there with me that went over to speak to Monty Rice because he started to play more snaps on defense. So he kind of looked at us out of the side of his eye and chuckled a little bit to himself and said, "Oh, now y'all want to talk?" I was like, "Yeah, you play football beyond special teams now. I would like to talk to you, sir." That's you. If we want to talk to you, it's either because you've earned an opportunity to play or you've done something very, very bad that notes comment or that is worth commenting on or worth asking for comment on. And this happens to be the former. So congratulations to you. You're playing. Now your words are more relevant than they were previously when you were not. I don't think that's that hard to grasp. But, for a guy who was a starting linebacker, a stud linebacker on a Georgia football team where he was probably used to, being thought of in a little higher, at a little higher caliber, that's, I understand why he took the position that he did. Either way. So Monty Rice, there was a lot of talk about him coming out of the draft process. He had 3 different agents before the draft even began. And I remember Ross Tucker pointing it out on social media that was like a massive red flag, even though without context, you have no idea, unless you're talking to Monty Rice, why he fired his agents at the time. And I know that he never really cared to comment on it after he got drafted here in 2021. Had a little bit on a post-draft Zoom with us as he was after he had just found out the news that he'd been taken by the Titans with the 92nd overall pick that year. But, for Monty Rice, it speaks to a larger issue, right? Because I went and looked this up after I saw that he'd been released. And I found that in the drafts, sorry, I'm throwing my mic pack all over the place. I found that in the drafts, the last 3 drafts for John Robinson, so that's 2020, 2021, and 2022. Rand Carthon, obviously, 2023. So in the last 3 drafts that John Robinson had, the Tennessee Titans had 11 picks in the top 100 of those 3 drafts. So 11 total picks across 3 drafts, all in the top 100, right? 4 in 22, 4 in 21, and 3 in 2020. Those were the top 100 draft picks that the Tennessee Titans had. Only 3 of those 11 have turned into players who will just say regularly contribute. Only one of those 11 is a player that you legitimately feel good about the viability of them staying here beyond their first contract. Those 3 players are Christian Fulton from 2020, from the 2020 draft to 2022. Christian Fulton in the second round of the 2020 draft, Elijah Molden in the third round of the 2021 draft, and Roger McCreary in the second round of the 2022 draft. McCreary is the only one who I think has a legitimate future here. Molden, I think you could kind of take him or leave him, but he is a good locker room guy. Elijah Molden is a legitimate culture type of player, and that might buy him something with the next generation of what this Titans staff, coaching, or front office looks like. It's really bad, right? One player out of 11 picks in the top 100 that you could consider a good starting caliber football player for your team. Treylon Burks is not that yet. Isaiah Wilson, obviously not. Caleb Farley not. Monty Rice not. Darrington Evans is a top 100 pick in that 2020 draft class. I think he's still bouncing around, perhaps with the Bears, but obviously he's been on several different teams since he was drafted in the league. Can't latch on anywhere. There are a lot of players, a lot of missed opportunities, and a lot of critical positions of need. Tackles, right? Offensive linemen, wide receivers, corners, all the places that we're talking about the Titans having such clear and obvious weaknesses, are all the positions that they've been, piling up misses at over the course of the last 3 drafts before Rand Carthon was hired as the general manager here. So I think that when you look at it's always good to kind of reset what the problem is and kind of bring new attention or bring different attention to what the problem is. Anytime you start to get into a lull and you get frustrated and you start to ask for things that are beyond the scope of what's actually wrong with the football team, again, it highlights that the thing that is most wrong with the football team is the state of the roster. Now, I am willing to hear arguments for the Titans not making any of those players better as a coaching staff. None of those players, and there have been injuries derailing a lot of them. Isaiah Wilson is a different entity entirely, but for Dylan Radins, he never improved here, right? He has never shown signs of development here as a second round pick. Maybe that's Dylan Radins' fault. Maybe that's the fault of injury, bad luck. Maybe that's the fault of the coaching staff. It's tough to kind of distribute the blame when you're not in these meeting rooms. But there is an argument to be made that some of those players just simply didn't get better here. And I think that that's also worth highlighting. But there is a lot of draft negligence, honestly, that's kind of put them in this position. And that had been trending in that direction for some time when John Robinson was making first round picks that he also wasn't re-signing to second deals, right? Quality or at least starting caliber players that could help stave off some of this, like Jack Conklin. And I mean, I'm not going to make the argument for Corey Davis, but I bet a lot of Titans fans would have gone for Corey Davis, even as disappointing as he was with the Jets. I think that there's just a lot of problems that they've been building up, and that's kind of where we're at with it right now. A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Amanda J. Gentry cannot protect you against bad football, but she can protect your constitutional rights. Her and her team will protect your constitutional right to be a father to your child. That is something she is very passionate about, and she has fought for clients in 35 counties in Tennessee, family and criminal courts across this state. AmandaJGentry.com for more information about how she and her team can help you today. Tig says, does Vrabel ask too much of the prima donna that is today's athletes? I don't know why athletes are in quotes. The athletes have never been better, right? The evolution of football has never been higher, where Jeffrey Simmons is built like Superman, and wide receivers are built like pterodactyls, and tight ends are, are out of this world athletic. Like athletes in parentheses, I'm not sure what the nature of that is. But you know, I think that it is kind of worth, and I don't necessarily know that Vrabel I don't think is one of these coaches, but like Dan Campbell is a great example of a coach that works really, really well with today's professional athlete. I think a lot of people think Dan Campbell's dopey. I think a lot of people think he's corny. I think his players absolutely love him, would go to war for him, because all Dan Campbell does, I mean, is basically love up on him. Like Dan Campbell is overwhelming and effusive in the way that he publicly and privately shows his players love. That's not Bill Belichick, right? That's a completely different style and approach to the relationship with players, right? I see a lot of people say Dan Campbell is the man. Dan Campbell is the man in the comment section. I think that Vrabel, while Vrabel is not Dan Campbell, like effusive and over the top in his love and appreciation for the players that play for him, I think that he shows it to them in ways that are so real and mean almost more because of how, I don't want to say how infrequent it is, but how much you basically have to earn it. Ben Jones is a great example of this. There is nobody that has played football for the Tennessee Titans under Mike Vrabel that Mike Vrabel loves more than Ben Jones. Why? Because Ben Jones is the ultimate competitor, the ultimate teammate, one of the toughest, I almost said a bad word, one of the toughest human beings that I've ever been around, and he plays an incredibly important position and was always available. Mike Vrabel loved Ben Jones, talked about him like he was his son, right? Jonnu Smith is somebody like that Mike Vrabel was always incredibly complimentary of. I think Will Levis is very much in that mold. Ryan Tannehill in that mold, right? You guys always question why Mike Vrabel loved Ryan Tannehill so much, because he's tough as hell and he's out there getting his ass kicked, and he continues to get up and go out there and try and play through getting his ass kicked. Like there's not a lot of wasted affection, let's say, for Mike Vrabel. Now, I think Vrabel's probably closer to Belichick than he is to Dan. Well, no, I'd take that back. I think Vrabel's closer to Dan Campbell than he is to Bill Belichick. I think having been a player for Bill and knowing what works and what doesn't about the Patriots, really being the only successful one who's come out of that organization. I know he's not like on the Belichick coaching tree because he didn't coach for Bill, but like he didn't try to be Bill Belichick after having seen how Bill Belichick ran things. He approached it as he would himself, right? And has had some learning curves along the way. I think that there's some of the stuff that rubs people the wrong way. And I think that the thing that makes Vrabel unique is anybody can get got at any given point, whether that's media, whether that's players. I think that as Lane says, Vrabel is genuine. Mike Vrabel is genuine. I do believe that. Now, whether you like the level of genuine or the way that he shows that level of genuine, I think is a different matter, right? It's definitely not Dan Campbell. But I do think that there is a huge appeal to the players. But at 4-8, it's probably hard to have an appreciation for the way that Mike Vrabel, runs his show, because he still continues to demand a lot of people, even when, at 4-8, there's guys who are making their vacation plans for January without question, and who are, audibly or at least visibly frustrated based on their behavior on social media. Who's going to win the AFC South with the Titans kind of out of it? Not officially out of it yet, but basically out of it. Who do you think is going to win the AFC South at this point? Titans do have 3 more divisional games to play, 2 against the Texans and 1 the season finale against the Jags. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that Zen Sports has the VIP rewards program for you, as well as having the up to $1,000 in no danger first wager offer. Plug in the promo code ATOZTN and be entered to join Zen Sports VIP program, where there are better rewards, where there are better offers, where there are better comps available to you. It's invitation only. So if you think that your Zen Sports play should qualify for their VIP program, you can find out more information at zensports.com/VIP. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Zen Sports. Download the app today. Who do you think is going to win the AFC South? Because Trevor Lawrence and this ankle sprain, this high ankle sprain that he's not expected to have surgery on, is a huge problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are trying to maintain what is simply a one-game lead at this point in time. So this is Pat McAfee talking about Trevor Lawrence and the situation for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who do currently at 8-4 lead the AFC South.
Doug Peterson doesn't believe that Trevor Lawrence will need the tightrope surgery procedure, which is the same procedure that Kenny Pickett had. And I think we learned about it from Tua.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is how we all learned
Brock
about
Bowers had it this year.
Oh, that's right.
Mac did it last year.
But it's been something very recent where it's some sort of surgery. I wish I was a doctor. We'll have Aaron Rodgers joining us.
Right.
13, and we'll ask him.
Yeah, he's a doctor.
But it's some surgery that they started doing, I assume, down there in Birmingham.
Birmingham. James Andrews.
Andrews' thing. And it's like standard high ankle doesn't normally need a surgery. But then they said, but wait a minute, we can take this maybe 5 to 6 week thing, make it a 3 to 4 or 2 to 4 type thing. And they started doing it. I appreciate that we're trying to beat all these injuries. Him not needing it is good news. That's what that sounds like.
You would think so, because, I mean, but like Kenny just got it done.
No, where's the card at, too?
Come on. Thank you.
Come
Are you
on.
serious?
You know what? It was terrible to see his franchise quarterback walking all the way to the locker room, but at the same time, it's a good sign. It was a good sign.
Yeah, true.
That is that. You stop searching it up, bro. You got a cop taking your franchise QB into the house,
it's
man.
weird.
That is crazy.
Big Dom over there.
Big Dom would have put him on his back.
Yeah.
By the way, Big Dom and the Niners, I do believe, probably had a phone call, a sit down.
Nice.
I think they're
If
all
I know
kind of.
Big Dom's college
families.
I think so. Kyle Shanahan came out and said that he's heard the Big Dom's a good guy.
I respect Big Dom.
Basically, he heard, okay, no problems. Let's move along here.
If I know Big Dom and his culture, he brought some of his guys, and then the 49ers guys, and they sat down at a table and they discussed it. And
what was there, one light on over the top?
There was one light on. There was a guy standing in the back.
Okay, so they're talking about they've moved on from Lawrence to the Philadelphia Eagles situation, but still, Trevor Lawrence limping his way to the locker room. We talked about this on the radio show. How the hell they don't have a cart at the stadium in Jacksonville, so Trevor Lawrence on a high ankle sprain doesn't have to walk all the way to wherever the hell they're trying to take Trevor Lawrence to get further evaluation. I do think that impacts them. I do think that gives the Texans an edge. I'm not really buying into the Indianapolis Colts at 7-5. I think Gardner Minshew cannot be trusted. I think their defense is legit, as you saw this weekend. Really, really effective front defensively, led by DeForest Buckner, of course. But I do think that Houston, with the best quarterback situation moving forward, the healthiest quarterback situation moving forward, knock on wood for the sake of C.J. Stroud. I know Titans fans don't care about that, but still, it's kind of crazy how bad their record is at home. They are 6-0 away from Jacksonville, including home games including home games in London. They are 6-0 away from Jacksonville. Their record at home is pretty poor. I believe they only have 2 wins out of the games that they have played thus far in the season at home. Texans, based on the injury, is the thing that makes the most sense right now. Again, the Titans have 2 games against these Houston Texans. They're probably going to be without Jeff Simmons for the Houston Oilers throwbacks game against the Texans at Nissan Stadium. That is coming up on, I want to say, the 18th is the Texans game at home. I would expect Jeff Simmons to miss that game based on the timeline of a couple of weeks. He's for sure out against Monday Night Football. I think that the Titans, can they win a divisional game? Man, how quickly they have fallen from having such a record of success over the Colts to the Colts sweeping them this year. Jags, we'll see with the Lawrence quarterback situation. There's no reason that they should be favored in either game against the Houston Texans as things stand right now. I would be shocked to see them go winless in the AFC South this year, because they are currently winless in the AFC South, but it's going to be really, really tough without Jeff. Anyway, we'll wrap things up with a gone viral video. What's the best thing that you saw on the internet this week? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We will discuss at length together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the great people at True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com. Your first workout is free. A new way to work out for the best version of you. Boot camp style group workout classes, personal training that is unmatched, a facility that is awesome, the best in Middle Tennessee, that's available to work out as you want to work out when you sign up for one of their memberships. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free. Give them a try today. Let them know that A to Z Sports sent you. All right. So what's the best thing that you saw on the internet this week? Jonah says, peace out, Buck, you beautiful MFer. That made me laugh. We appreciate you, Jonah. Thank you for spending your time. I do not look terribly beautiful tonight, but I shouldn't get too close to the camera. I did an eye mask earlier today to make sure I didn't look so puffy, but what are you going to do? That explosion in Washington, D.C., says Mike Peck. So Bert and Lucas were talking about this. I haven't seen this video yet, but I'm going to have to look it up. Apparently the house just exploded. I'm not sure the details on it. But I'm fascinated to, hopefully nobody was seriously injured or potentially killed, because obviously that is very much real. Corey D. Jackson says, kids, goat racing will always be the gone viral until the end of time. Yeah, the sheep riding halftime show of the Denver Broncos a couple of weeks ago was exceptional. I'm going to go with this clip that I saw of Grand Theft Auto, the new Grand Theft Auto getting ready to come out. They've spliced together footage from a variety of different local TV stations in Florida and news reports that they've did up against some scenes in the new Grand Theft Auto. Tell me if you can spot any of the similarities.
Well, look who's back. The only way we're going to get through this is by sticking together, being a team.
So the top videos are Grand Theft Auto. The bottom are B-roll from local Florida news stations. They've basically just taken the state of Florida and turned it into a video game, because the state of Florida is not a real place. Again, look at some of the scenes from these. Tell me, it's pretty difficult to tell which one's real and which one's from the video game.
Well, look who's back. The only way we're going to get through this is by sticking together, being a team.
Incredible. I mean, anytime there is a Grand Theft Auto game, I'm going to be tempted to buy it. I haven't bought a game console since I think the last one I bought was a PS4, like pre-pandemic. That had to have been like 2018, 2017 maybe. It's been a while. But anyway, Vice City was the best, says hello ladies in the comment section. Vice City remains the best. I used to enter in the cheat codes when I was in grade school and stuff like that, and download the flying tank and things. There's a Grand Theft Auto, just terrible life advice could be found on Grand Theft Auto for young minds that were easily molded. It's probably contributed to some of the traffic issues that we have in downtown Nashville, but I haven't seen any flying tanks coming down Gallatin Pike, and at least in the 8 years that I've been here. Anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. We appreciate you guys spending your time here with us. Radio show tomorrow. We are going to be back in studio. Toy Field was fun today. Mike Vrabel and Will Levis are going to speak to the media. We'll carry those press conferences live for you, and we'll talk about the Titans on Monday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. Get that week of preparation started. I will see you guys then at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.